Welcome to the Underground, the Steel City Underground, the black and gold standard for Pittsburgh Steelers coverage. Now, here's your host, Joe Kuzma.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Steel City Underground podcast. My name is Joe Kuzma, and I am here flying solo today just because myself and my co-hosts, my colleagues, my cohorts, Brian E. Roach, Zach Celadonia, we couldn't get on the same page. A little bit of miscommunications, just things. Our schedule's just completely out of whack this week. We planned on getting you 2 shows, even though it is June and it is the slow period for NFL news, for Steelers news. But get to look at this mean mug right here. Got to get into the right camera here. I'm flying solo, and got to start off the show just with a little bit of somber news, a little bit of remembrance. Clark Haggans, former outside linebacker for the Pittsburgh Steelers, passing away this week, age 46, former Super Bowl champion. Definitely anyone who has been part of the fandom or Steelers Nation over the last, he joined the team in 2000. So just, this era, Heinz Field era, right? Pretty much Acrisure Stadium now, but in all seriousness, Clark Haggans, very long, productive NFL career, 13 seasons, 8 of those with the Pittsburgh Steelers, 32 and a half sacks during his time as a Steeler, and appeared in, 107 games in Pittsburgh. So it's like, when you hear this news, I'm 41, he's 46. It's just, it hits you. I did not know Clark personally or professionally. However, those who did have nothing but nice things to say to him. I'm sure he will be truly missed by those who are much closer. However, definitely feel within the aspect of Steel City Underground right here, football's family, and rest in peace. And I don't do very, very well with these sorts of things, as you can tell. But it's, wow, it just hits you, such a young age. I make fun of Brian, I make fun of Zach, and I'm like the middle child between them with the age thing. And it's just like, you don't think that a guy that was, of this stature, former Super Bowl champion, it's just young. It's just young, and it's sad. And, Clark he'll be missed, and he will be remembered. So rest in peace. God bless. To any friends and family who may catch this, and my condolences. That's not the kind of news that we have a slow period. It's June through July until training camp kind of hits and drops, and it's not the kind of thing that I necessarily want to hear. That's not the kind of news I want to be able to bring all of you out here. So on my own, I'm going to cover something today because it's a little bit easier until I get the flashback on early next week. And myself and Brian, we're going to talk about, we got some different topics lined up. We do have some things that we could kind of discuss as we look forward to the 2023 season approaching. And it's really some of these recent additions to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Just the other day on the 20th, what day was the 20th? Tuesday, right? Yeah. The Steelers signed a long snapper. He was already in camp last year. They released wide receiver Anthony Miller, who I really like. They got to feel that maybe there was a physical thing, or perhaps maybe the injury he hadn't quite gotten over just yet. And then they signed a linebacker, Nick Kwiatkoski. And the way it's spelled, Kwiatkoski. I hope I got it. I hear on the Arthur Moat show, I believe Deke is... one of his buddies called him Nick the Quick. So I might just steal that. I'm just going to call him Nick. They were talking about whether this guy could be a starter, and that's kind of where I'm heading with a few of the players that were signed here. Steelers had him in for minicamp, tryout. He was originally a 4th-round pick in 2016, so he's been around the league for a minute. He was with the Chicago Bears for 4 seasons, 2 more at the Raiders, last year with the Atlanta Falcons. Mostly over the last 2 years, his final one with the Raiders and last year with the Falcons. Primarily a special teams guy. Steelers still need some special teams help. Can't fill it all in with undrafted guys and rookies. He used to be a pretty good defensive contributor for several years too, but we're talking at least 60% or more special team snaps. So basically cover teams. So 4 of his 7 NFL seasons. he's more of a depth guy, but it's still another depth guy that you could add into this mix. You got Landon Roberts, you got Cole Holcomb. Both of these guys maybe banged up from the previous year, or you got to make sure that they're healthy. And if they're not healthy, I'm not saying that they aren't entering the season, but you lose these guys during a year. You got Mark Robinson who's sitting behind everybody, and everybody's like really high on Mark Robinson. You got to like just pull back that he's a late round pick entering his second year as a pro, and he only had 1 year in college as a inside linebacker. So he only has 2 seasons as an inside linebacker. You got to keep adding people into this mix, into this depth chart. Nick Kwiatkoski. I'm, like a Polish heritage. Everything's a kowski, okay, or a ski of some sort. So pierogi. That's not a ski, but pierogi. But anyways, Mark Robinson. This is entering his 3rd year playing a position, and he's at the highest level of football, trying to make that work. That might not ever work. You got to be realistic about it. I'm not saying I don't like Mark Robinson. I'm just saying, if that's all you're going to count on and then it doesn't work, and you might be throwing them out, into the fire, feeding them to the sharks. Like, maybe we could do some other things. And that's where Nick the Quick comes in here. But he's not the only one. It's going to be interesting to see what the Steelers do with Tanner Muse, who was brought in 2 years with the Seattle Seahawks. He's more or less a guy, it's a tweener. They've tried him at safety. They've tried him as a linebacker. Definitely a special teams guy. Is he going to be a primary backup? Maybe that's why Nick the Quick's here, right? So you got to put that into perspective. I like Tanner Muse. I like his shot at making this roster, but the Steelers were certainly missing. As I'm looking through all this, it's like almost like they're still. I don't even know if this guy's really on the roster. Chappelle Russell. I mean, like, what else? There's nobody else. Like, as far as depth, inside linebackers, everybody's gone. Miles Jack, Devin Bush, Bobby Spillane, they're all gone. This is a whole new crew. So you got to see what's going to happen, but you never know. Nick the Quick, Tanner Muse, these are guys that could be underdogs. I also think that some of this projects to there are defensive plans on how to cover backs, tight ends. You got to have guys that can cover, and coverage linebacker is almost like a myth. You're only going to be so good at that. That's why you're a linebacker, not a safety. Has to deal with your size, your physical makeup, your attributes like that, right? We know Spillane wasn't great at coverage. We never really got to see Jack in coverage. And we know that Bush wasn't the same since his knee injury. So here's a whole new crew. And we know that Roberts is more of a thumper. He's like a Vince Williams kind of player. So Cole Holcomb, he could be the guy, but what happens to him? So you lost Terrell Edmonds. You got the Monte Casey kind of sliding over. I expect KZ to be the starter, but you never know. I don't know. You're going to have to see how they shake this out. They definitely have an idea. That's why they signed these guys. Maybe Muse will be more of a safety. It's really not an area that they did a whole lot with other than signing Keanu Neal, former first-round pick. How long ago was that? 2016 also. Man, Keanu Neal's been around for a while. He had a Pro Bowl selection with the Atlanta Falcons. I remember when Neal came out of college, pretty high on him. I thought maybe, the Steelers, we're always talking about trying to find that next safety. It took them a couple of years. They end up getting Edmonds, after this. And, Casey was always like on that radar too. And I'm really happy that they signed him last season. And he played well. I mean, I wish I could have saw a full season out of him because I could really like gauge if he's the starter material, if he's like the full-time replacement, or if Neal's here to be more of like the dime backer and the coverage guy, or maybe Muse is here for that too. But I think all of these names, these guys are in the mix to have like contributor roles, maybe not necessarily be a starter at the gate. I saw somewhere where somebody had like penciled in Keanu Neal as a start. I don't know that. He's another guy that has flirted with playing linebacker, has flirted with playing safety. Some people think he's shot as far as being able to cover. Okay, great. Like now he's like, the third safety in this package, and he's capable of like being a thumper and stopping the run, and he has some linebacker traits to him. That's excellent. It doesn't have to be your starter at every position on the field. Can't be Pro Bowl level, can't be all pro level, can't be all-star level. But it's good to have guys with experience and guys these are the guys that Mike Tomlin picks up off the scrap heap and nobody else wants. Tyson Alualu's a famous one. Darius Hayward-Bay, for example. Like, he didn't light the world on fire, but he scored a couple tutties and he made a lot of special teams plays. He was blazing fast. He was probably overdrafted when he was the first round pick as a wide receiver. That's where Keanu Neal fits right into all of this. Like, at one point, what did the Steelers have just on defense alone? 7 or 8 guys that were drafted in the first round? Like, that's, pretty crazy stuff. So, Keanu Neal, also part of this. I mean, they tried to do this with Carl Joseph, too. Last 2 years, Joseph just couldn't stay healthy. And this is why it's tough for me to get, like, geeked up over Neal. I'm like, yeah, I like this player on paper, but let's hope that the health thing is sometimes it's out of these guys' control. And I don't want to make fun of anybody that, gets injured and be like, oh, well, this guy can't stay healthy. And it's like, well, you have something that's pretty tragic that happens to you. I blew out a knee when I was in high school. I still suffer from I was bending down, getting something from the bottom of my cabinet the other day. And it's like, oh, my knee don't bend that way. Now imagine trying to play in the NFL with something like that. You're trying to get over like a lingering issue. You don't have enough time to let it sit for 2 years or whatever to fully heal. You got to go out there like a gladiator and play. So we'll see how Keanu Neal ends up factoring into this. I mean, he could be anywhere from like a guy who plays a lot of like snaps because of sub packages to potentially not even making the team. It's really tough to see how how he could contribute, how he may surprise this season. Another one, and I know Neal was signed a little sooner. Nick Quick is a little. It's like all over the board, but these weren't like the highest profile additions to the team, if you see what I mean. Like Chandon Sullivan's another one. People are given a lot of grief about Steelers making moves. The Anthony Miller one I'll explain in a minute. I think I have a good feeling as to why. It's like don't bring him to, don't even have him in this mix. Give him an opportunity where he might actually be able to make the team because we like what we got here, here, and here. And this is what happened too with Arthur Maulet. I didn't have a problem with Arthur Maulet, but clearly the Steelers have an idea of what they want to do, and they're reshaping. You look at this like secondary. I mean, Edmonds is gone. Now Maulet's gone. And I mean, over the last course of several years, it's been, Joe Hayden left, and then Cameron Sutton is now gone. I might be missing someone else with this whole mix here too, but the overriding thing is they've been trying to reshape this roster, get this secondary into place. Patrick Peterson added to this roster in the offseason, and it's also I'm kind of interested to see where he may end up in this whole mix. Ahkello Witherspoon is who I was thinking of too. Also gone. Another guy that they traded for, trying to count on to be a starter. And it's just, life is short it's the not for long league. So it's completely made over now. You got Patrick Peterson that was added. You've got Joey Porter Jr. who was signed. Levi Wallace is still hanging around. DeMonte Casey may get a full year as a starter finally. I'm trying to think who else is sitting around here. I mean, you still got James Pierre. Oh, Corey Trice was added in the draft. So there's a lot of different things going on here with the Steelers secondary. And Chandon Sullivan figures into this as well. He's a 5-year veteran. He's played in 71 career games, including every single game he was available to play in over the last 3 seasons. This guy's like an Iron Man. And he's played 71%, 77%, and 81% of his team's snaps. And he's 1 season removed from having 3 interceptions with the Packers, with 7 passes defense last year, 1 season with the Vikings. I know a lot of people were talking smack about basically like, hey, Chandon Sullivan, like this Vikings D, was it really that good? Blah, blah, blah. I mean, there's a lot of different factors to that. You know what I mean? You got, don't hold the player, don't hold that against the player, like the system or whatever else might be going on there. Sullivan more than likely will be the slot corner. He appears to be the favored one. I don't see any scenario where Peterson isn't on the outside, where Porter isn't on the outside. I don't know what they're going to do with Levi Wallace. I think Levi Wallace starts so they could ease Porter in maybe, or vice versa with Peterson. There's also been some chatter as to whether or not Peterson could extend his career play maybe into, his mid-30s to late 30s if he converts to safety like some other great corners, Hall of Fame corners have in the past, including my favorite dude growing up, my hero, Rod Woodson. And he's among several others. And some have tried and weren't able to do it too. So, but we're hoping that Peterson's still got something left in the tank. In order to do this, though, I mean, like, I really looked at like Mullet snaps, and it kind of gives you an idea of what was coming. I'm trying to pull it up here now because I'm just like, hey, it's kind of reminded me of like Mike Hilton, for example. Like Mullet, early in the season, 60%. Now I think he got dinged 12%, 22, he got hurt. Comes back 74, 80%, 78%, 50, 61, 66, 83. And you get to like the Colts game, and this falls off a cliff. This guy's playing like 18 snaps, 28%, 6 snaps, 11%. Gets the Falcons. And I know some of that might have been like to, more know thy enemy. He played 1 snap against the Baltimore Ravens. Then he's at 37%, 28%, 37%, 25%. You think Shannon Sullivan could play maybe about 15 snaps per game and not be a huge liability just like Mullet was? And I understand you're playing against maybe some more run-heavy teams. Baltimore, Atlanta last year definitely was. Cleveland Browns. So that could also factor in it. Carolina Panthers. That's also some of the factor into that as well. But overall, you're not. You can't have an all-star, or you can't pay somebody a huge contract if they're playing like 20% of the game, third of the game. You know what I mean? Yeah, I know. I said 35, 37. Okay, we're in that ballpark. 28, 25. Still though, it's not like that's not big. That's not where you put your big money. That's how you get your team in trouble. Do stupid things with your salary cap. So Shannon Sullivan's going to come in here, and he should have some familiarity having played with P2 last year. Sorry about that. Doing this by myself, it's like sometimes I just, go off camera. I got Brian or Zach up. I could sneak a swig of water. I could edit it out, but I like to be real with all you. So Shannon Sullivan, yeah, makes not only going to make the team, but I think he has like at least some form of impact. He was at least, involved with the Vikings. The Vikings were just like, I don't understand the Vikings last year. I don't really know what this team really did. I'm trying to look up some more on Sullivan. Entered the league. Georgia State came in 2018. I mean, this is pretty impressive. Undrafted guy. And he's, carved out, 5 seasons in the NFL, going on his 6th one. Appeared in 71 games. He has 31 career starts. The career starts is tough because if you're playing like as a slot corner, you get a start if you're out there for the first play of the game. And it's like, well, he might be out there because the other team comes out with three wide, and you have to cover. You got to put a hat on a hat. So that's going to happen. I mean, you're not going to have like a lot of tackles for loss, quarterback hits. There's like no career sacks. He's not anything like that. You're not going to really blitz with him, I don't think. He just doesn't seem to have that in his past repertoire. Whether or not the Steelers see something and can unlock something different there, that's to be determined. But I think that's about where you see the baseline for him. And whether or not he's behind some of the other corners I already mentioned, if they try and cycle those guys around and use them in different ways. Another big name, I don't think getting enough talk, Markus Golden. I think just, I know 32 years old, but 32 to play a backup role behind TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith. I mean, you're not asking the guy to play 80 snaps. You're asking him to play like 20 to 30. I think as a 32-year-old, he's going to have more than enough in the tank to be able to do that. I was waiting to see. 32, yeah, he's just turned 32 in March, so he's a young 32. And he has experience playing, it's all edge, but 3-4 and 4-3. As an edge rusher. This is a guy that gets after the quarterback. 3 different seasons with double-digit sacks. And they're kind of spotty. They're all over the place, but most of his time spent with the Arizona Cardinals in his career. He has 47 career sacks, 62 tackles for loss. He's hit quarterbacks 130 times in 111 appearances with 68 starts. This is going to be kind of nice. You pull TJ off the field. You pull Alex off the field. And you might have a heat-seeking missile that's going to add or contribute a little bit extra to the Steelers' defense, whereas you didn't have that with Malik Reed. And name somebody else from last year, please. What do we say? Like Derek Tuska, was he on the roster last year? I think at the beginning of the season he was, and the Steelers tried all kinds of things. The last couple of years have just kind of been a nightmare with like, yeah, let's see if John Simon's still got something going on, And I was a big John Simon fan. He was a local guy, Youngstown, Ohio, but Father Time catches up with you, and it's just whatever you can get. Taco Charlton, you know what I mean? Like the Steelers have tried. They've tried desperately to have some depth there at that edge position. Markus Golden, I think, is going to be a great fit as long as he doesn't have the Melvin Ingram attitude. And he understands his role and he embraces his role. It sounds like Mike Tomlin right now. Embraces his role. Then I think everything's going to be copacetic here. I think it's going to be pretty good. Here's one most people won't take me serious enough on. A signing this offseason under the radar. It wasn't too under the radar. It was under the radar just enough. And that's bringing back Mason Rudolph. And even I thought, Mitchell Trubisky, pack your bags, buddy. You're out of town. And then they extended Mitchell Trubisky. But you've got this rule now in place, whether it be an old revisited rule or revised rule from the past, that you could have the emergency quarterback dress. They come in if the other two are unable to return to action, return to the field of play. What better situation can you be in? How many times have we seen Mason go out there? And people think sometimes, I'm full of shit. And they're just like, what are you seeing this guy? Blah, blah, blah. Look, man, I mean, as far as a backup, it's pretty steady Eddie. He's got 10 starts. He's been in 17 games. He's completed over 60% of his passes over that time. He was the only guy named other than, well, you know what? I have to. I've thrown this stat out before. Did Kenny Pickett get there last year? Now I'm starting to think. We got to look up Kenneth Shane Pickett here in a second and see what we got. Because I don't know that Mason may still be the only guy other than Big Ben who has thrown for 300 yards other than Big Ben since, 18 seasons, going on 19 seasons without Ben Roethlisberger. Kenny had 327 against the Buffalo Bills. That's right. That was and that was his first start. They had him throw all over the field, 52 attempts. So I had thought so. So Kenny has one, but Mason does too. Gets Cleveland Browns. He had that big game end of the season, 315, 2 TDs. He had the one interception. He's thrown for 16 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, usually with the skeleton crew. He looked really great during training camp last year. I think he's going to look good during training camp this year. He understands the team, understands the system, knows his job, and has done adequately when thrown in under pressure, short notice. This is like QB3 material. We're talking about quarterback 3. That's 3. Like, are we really going to bitch and complain about quarterback 3? I think and you're going to start ranking them. Might be the best quarterback 3. We did that exercise a few shows ago. Go back and check it out. In fact, if you missed the live show last week, go back and look. Sometimes it doesn't show up in the other videos. I know some of you didn't watch it, but we talk about all the different jerseys that either we own, you should own, or you should avoid, or ones we got burned on. It was a fun time, myself and Brian. But Mason Rudolph, I think that signing isn't getting enough credit. It would be better than, what did the Dolphins have to roll with? Like Skylar Thompson or, who was the kid that ends up playing in with the New England Patriots last year? I'm drawing a blank. And I won't after a second. Bailey Zappi. That's right. I mean, they had Brian Hoyer. Mac Jones obviously was the starter. Brian Hoyer guy's been around forever. The Steelers had him on a practice squad before he ever got any type of starting or real backup gig way back in the day. I mean, there's your experiment is Bailey Zappi or somebody like that. Skylar Thompson. That would be who you got to really resort to. A lot of teams are having to go very deep on their bench. Obviously, the San Francisco 49ers are always going to be like, Brock Purdy, though. And I'm like, did very unexpectedly well I still think, man, Kyle Shanahan could have got me out there on the field, and I'm not going to say I'm going to do as well as Brock Purdy, but I could have done okay. I just think there's a lot with coaching there. We'll see if he heals up and if he ends up being a Cinderella story, much the way Tom Brady was. You never know. Like, these guys, they aren't thought of. Like Kenny Pickett, small hands, can't draft that guy and slides to the Steelers at 20th overall. And a lot of people are calling, including us, for a breakout season from Kenny Pickett. Very well could happen, and everyone's going to feel dumb, just like when they passed on Aaron Rodgers, and obviously everyone passed on Tom Brady. And there's guys who fall through the cracks for any number of reasons, and then for any other variety of factors, they end up getting an opportunity that they may have not had otherwise, and then it's a Cinderella story. So I won't count out Brock Purdy. It's just the odds are forever against him, not in his favor, not Hunger. May the odds be forever in your favor. Yeah, very much Hunger Games like. So Mason Rudolph, though, his odds are not very good as being an NFL starter, and he's remanded to being a backup at best for the rest of his career, unless there's like some extraordinary set of circumstances. He says, I mean, Geno Smith's a good example over in Seattle too. And, you can never say never. It's pretty crazy. And that leads me to like guys going to the XFL, USFL, second chances, and seeing what they can make of their, if they could salvage their career, if maybe everybody kind of grows and develops at a different pace. NFL is unforgiving. Like I said, not for long. It's like, boom, you didn't get it. Boom, gone. But now you've got these other spring leagues that afford guys opportunities to earn a paycheck and showcase what they're able to do. And in the case of Hakeem Butler, this is like, a lot of people are really excited, and I'm really downplaying, but Hakeem Butler is a wide receiver 5 or 6. Sign me up. He's got size that no one else possesses on the roster. He's 6'5". I mean, Miles Boykin's 6'4". Excuse me. And George Pickens is 6'3". But I mean, I could see him being a target in the end zone. I mean, you're just bigger. You don't teach tall. You don't teach big. He's physical. I don't know what his whole story was. He kind of fizzled out. He's a 4th round pick in Arizona. We really thought of him as higher. We were talking about him even as a 2nd round pick back then, potentially. And he got like one pass in his entire career thrown his way in Philadelphia in 2020. And then, like, his story is the XFL holds a draft. He's not even in this. Knew somebody, I don't know if he knew the head coach with the St. Louis Battlehawks of the XFL or not, or knew somebody in the staff, but somewhere along the lines is how that story came together. And he calls up and he's asking for an opportunity, and he was given an opportunity. And here he is. Gets to try out with the Steelers. Now he's coming to camp. See what he's got. Like, sign me up, man. I'm for a good underdog story. I don't think he's going to leapfrog Deontay Johnson, George Pickens, Allen Robinson, even Calvin Austin. Like, Calvin Austin, I liked Calvin Austin. And Anthony Miller was like really a strong looking dude last year too. If Hakeem Butler can look like that and be in that mold, he'll make this roster. What can you realistically see from him? Maybe some red zone targets. Steelers get down there near the end zone. Throw it to the tall guy who's like the 4th or 5th option on the field, and it gets completely mismatched 6th round rookie corner that's like 5'10". And those are the things. And I think Kenny could deliver the ball in that situation by all means. It's going to be interesting. Of course, you're always going to be looking for Pat Freiermuth in that situation as well. I'm just talking about wide receivers, not just all the dudes that can catch the football. So for some reason, like, I kept banging this mic. I hope that didn't like pick up on the show. I feel like really out of place. I really need Brian here to help intersect or say something like, no, you're wrong. He's going to suck. And like, I don't feel that way about any of these guys. I think all of these guys that I mentioned on this show have a real chance to make the Pittsburgh Steelers roster during this training camp. Nick Kwiatkoski. I'm so bad with this. I get them all. Like Tanner Muse. There's an easy one. We'll stick with Tanner Muse, Keanu Neal, Chandon Sullivan, Markus Golden. Definitely Markus Golden. Mason Rudolph would be a stretch too. Steelers always keep 3 corners. And then Hakeem Butler. And we really thought that wide receiver room was getting crowded. But I think with the release of, Corey or Cody Crest, and then Anthony Miller, like, you need guys to be able to run drills with, but where they see the future is we're going to try and give Hakeem Butler as much opportunity as possible to make the 2023 Pittsburgh Steelers roster. The rest of these guys, maybe a contributor in some way. You may not ever see Mason Rudolph throw a pass this upcoming season, but in practice, he's going to be a valuable asset to help some of these lift these guys up. He's going to be throwing passes to Butler. That's probably who they're going to be. They're going to be paired up together with each other as this goes on and as this process continues. So, kind of excited. Can't wait. Training camp will be around the corner. This is a really short show. Go back. We got some stuff in the archives that's still rather good. I know you 2%ers, you probably don't want to listen to us a second time, and that's fine. But if you're new here, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Leave a rating or review wherever you may be. Usually I have colleagues with me. Usually I have some other fancy graphics. I'm keeping it bare bones. It's near the end of the week. It's summer. Everybody's just wanting some better weather. We want to go hit the pool. We want to relax, enjoy some time with family, cookouts, barbecues around the corner, and et cetera, fireworks as well. So all that's around the corner. We'll be back at you early next week. Myself and the Flash should be back on the horn here. It's almost like I feel like it's been forever since he's been on. And I just feel like sometimes, like, I need a break. Come on, Brian. You're listening to this. Take the reins. But I know. I'm teasing. Brian had to bow out at the very last second. So I got to jab him a little bit on this. So, folks, that'll do it for me. My name is Joe Kuzma. This is the Steel City Underground podcast. We appreciate you no matter where you may be listening or watching from. And until next time, we always encourage our listeners out there to be safe, be good, and we'll catch you later.
We would like to thank you for listening and remind our listeners to follow us on social media and our website, www.steelcityunderground.com.